Hello, everybody. This is Dr. Carolyn Maria, working as an assistant professor in Loyola College of Education, Chennai. The title of the course is Childhood and Growing Up, which is Course 1. We are going to deal with Unit 3, Theories of Child Development. This video lecture is planned to focus on Jean Piaget's cognitive development theory. The main objective of this video lecture is the learner will be able to understand Jean Piaget's cognitive development theory. Let's learn what is cognitive development. The mere word cognition means becoming aware through your senses. Sense organs are the gateways of knowledge. Each and every experience an individual gains only through the sense organs. Sense organs become sensitized and they get the external stimuli. They send all the information to the brain, and according to the information received by the brain starts responding through the sense organs. So sense organs makes every person to become a knowledgeable person. Do you know how many percentage of learning happens through each sense organ? Through eyes, 75 percentage. Through ears, 13 percentage of learning. Through touch or the skin, 6 percentage of learning. By taste, 3 percentage of learning. That is through tongue. Through nose, 3 percentage of learning. Hence, sense organs are providing a great knowledge to every individual. So if in the absence of any sense organ, if the absence of working of any sense organ will make life very desperate for every individual. Hence, cognitive development is the construction of thought process, including remembering, problem solving, decision making from childhood through adolescence to adulthood. So each and every experience an individual gains through the sense organ and it stores in the brain, and brain starts processing. So the mental process is what called as the cognitive development. Let me explain the process of cognition through an example. For an example, you just think an attentive student in the class, he hears the loud noise outside. So, he focuses his concentration from the class to the outside noise in order to identify. Then, he identifies the loud noise as thunder because of his previous experience of thunder sound. At last, he generalizes in his mind that it is going to rain. Now, let's apply this example in the process of cognition. In the first step, what happens? An attentive student, he hears a loud noise outside. So, his sense organ ears are receiving an external stimuli as the loud noise, which is called as sensation. Then what happens? He focuses his concentration from the class to the outside sound. Then after what happens? He identifies the loud noise as thunder sound. So sensation already happened, that is the loud noise and your ears. Then after your past experience, previous experience of thunder sound makes you or helps you to identify the loud noise as thunder sound. And this particular process is called as perception, identifying through your past experience with sensation. Then you are forming a concept saying that it is going to rain. So by which your mind keeps processing in this angle. I am narrating it like this, but it happens in a fraction of a second in your mind. So this is the process of cognition. Now let's focus on the theory of cognitive development by Jean Piaget. Jean Piaget was a Swiss psychologist. He is known for his work on child development. He worked on how children develop intellectually. He worked as a professor of psychology, sociology, and philosophy. He married and he bore 3 children, and he studied their cognitive development right from their infancy. Let's first analyze what made Piaget to develop this cognitive development theory. Piaget was working in a school which was run by Alfred Binet. You know who is Alfred Binet, who was the developer of Binet-Simon test of intelligence. So when he was working as a teacher, he was assisting the students by marking Binet's intelligence test. So at the time of the students marking the Binet's intelligence test, he found that young children consistently made the same type of mistakes than the older children as well as even the adults. Adults were not at all making any mistake. So this particular incident made him to think, reflect on, and that is why he wanted to find out the reason by exploring the cognitive development in children. He wanted to find out why a particular age group of children, that is young children, are repeatedly making the same mistake. What makes them to go for the same mistake? So he wanted to find out the reason for that. That is the story of cognitive development theory. Let me explain Piaget's idea of cognitive process through an example. Let me give you a situation. The same situation we apply to four different life stages. A mother is going for a job. In order to pacify the child, the mother says that, let me get you a chocolate when I am returning back. But the actual situation is mother forgets to get the chocolate. This is the situation. Let's now apply to. So, if the mother says the same story to a 0 to 2-year-old kid, when the mother comes home back in the evening, the child will just go and grab the mother, and the moment the child sees the mother, the child will forget everything. So, the love between the mother and child plays a major role here, and the child will not remember with regard to the information of chocolate. So, mother is escaped here. In the second stage, if the mother says the same story to a 2 to 7-year-old child, the child stores the information in the brain that while coming in the evening, the mother would get a chocolate for the child. Soon as the child sees the mother in the evening, the child retrieves the data from the brain and the child would ask for the chocolate. Then only the mother would remember that the mother forgot to get the chocolate and she doesn't want to accept her mistake. Rather, she says a lie that the shop is closed. So the child would say that, okay, the next day mother can get a chocolate, and the next day also the child will retrieve the data and ask for the chocolate. If the same situation we apply to a 7 to 11-year-old child, if the mother comes home, the child would ask for the chocolate, and if the mother says the shop is closed, child would say, if that shop is closed, why can't you try in the other shop? So here what happens, the brain is exploring the various possibilities in order to solve the problem of getting a chocolate. So the same situation when we apply to 12 and above year old child, when the mother comes home and says the shop is closed, the child would ask the mother, give me the money, let me go and check whether the shop is really closed or not. So here what happens, manipulation of thoughts are happening in the child. So same situation, we are applying to four different stages. How far the brain works we have seen. So Piaget, as a biologist, he was interested in how an organism adapts to the environment. This is what he wanted to really find out. So he says that infants are born with schema and the schemas are called reflexes. So our behavior is controlled through the mental organizations called schema, and that every individual uses to represent to the world with regard to every action. For example, at the time of birth, the child knows only two things. One is to cry and the one is to smile. So these two are the schema the child has. Then after what happens, the same mouth the child uses for smile and cry, the child starts babbling. Then after babbling to some months, the child will start talking. So speak one word, then two words together, then one sentence. Then the child uses the same schema to sing, to shout, to scream, everything. So one after the other, the child keeps learning through the mental organization. So the smile and cry what the child was doing through the mouth, the same schema the child is applying for different situations. So schemas are developed based upon the information provided by the life experience, and then they are stored in the memory to make the future encounters. When the child starts babbling, the mother would teach the child to talk. mama, dada, like that. So the child starts imitating from the mother. So schema is the basic building block of an intelligent behavior and by which we can organize our knowledge. In order to learn this Piaget's theory, these four components are very important: assimilation, accommodation, adaptation, and organization. Let me give you an example through which you can just relate all these points. You just imagine that you are walking in a hot sun and you feel very thirsty. So your eyes would be just seeking for or wandering for where you can get a shop, where you can get a water bottle. But your bad luck, you don't get any water. And in a shop, there was only ice creams were available. So what you do, in order to quench your thirst, you just accept and eat the ice cream. At last, you understand that ice cream has reduced to some extent of your thirst. So let's relate these example with regard to the components of cognitive process. Piaget says that the process of taking in information from the environment is called as assimilation. So here, what is the taking in information? Hot sun makes you to feel very thirsty, and that is the information your body is giving. Then the next information is there is no water available in the shop and only ice cream is available. So here you are taking the information that only ice cream is available from the environment. The next process is what? Accommodation. The process of changing cognitive structure in order to accept the information from the environment. So you're storing the information in your brain saying that there is no water, only ice cream is available. So this is the information you are accommodating or storing in your brain. Then the third stage is adaptation. You adjust to the new environment. So here you have stored in your brain that there is no water available, only ice cream is available. So you are changing your mindset from drinking water to eating ice cream. So you are adjusting yourself to the new environment. At last, what happens? You understand that this ice cream has reduced your thirst. So by which here you're connecting all the schema in a unified structure and you're going for a generalized statement, generalized understanding in your mind, or organizing all these things or all this information in a logical sequential manner. So in your brain you store an information that even though there is no water, ice cream can just reduce your thirst. So that is the information you are storing through this cognitive process. According to Jean Piaget, there are four stages of cognitive development. The first stage is sensory motor stage between 0 to 2 years. Then comes pre-operational stage 2 to 7 years. Then comes concrete operational stage 7 to 11 years. Then formal operational stage 12 years and above. Let's see one stage after the other stage. So the very first stage 0 to 2 years is sensory motor stage. So here sense organs play a major role with regard to cognitive development. Whatever information we gather through our sense organs will be stored, will be taken into brain. And here this intelligence is demonstrated through the motor activity. So sense organ and motor activity are your hands and legs, how well you move your hands and legs and through which whatever activity you do. And here there is no much of language or symbols takes place over here. So the knowledge of the world is very limited according to this age group of children because it is based upon the physical interaction as well as the experiences. So all the symbolic abilities are developed at the end of the stage. So the child keeps learning only through the sense organs as well as through the child's motor activities of moving the hands and legs at this particular stage. The second stage is pre-operational stage, age between 2 to 7 years old. So this is a very important stage. Here, the intelligence is demonstrated through uses of symbols. The children start giving a lot of signals and they talk even in non-verbal language, and the child expressions are also there. So here, language is also developed. Proper language starts in this particular age. Memory and imagination are also here developed, and thinking is done in a non-logical as well as non-reversible manner. So here what happens? Egocentric thinking predominates. Four important aspects to be considered at this particular stage. They are egocentrism, centration, realism, and animism. Egocentrism is the children cannot differentiate between themselves and the world. The child would think they are the center of the world, and whatever they wanted to immediately satisfy that. So that is what called as egocentrism, and they do not want to share their play materials with others. So this is what egocentric thinking predominates in that particular stage. Simple example you take, if you given a lollipop to a child, if by mistake if the lollipop falls down and gets if the lollipop is broken, the child would cry for the unbroken lollipop to be given to the child. The child will not understand that it is broken and you cannot fix it again. So here they are mainly concentrating on their need to be satisfied. The second aspect is centration. They can focus on only one aspect of an object. As I told you, the same example you take, they wanted only the full lollipop, that is unbroken lollipop. They can focus on only one particular aspect at that particular time. They cannot realize that you cannot fix it. Then the next aspect is children at this particular age, they may consider whatever they have it in their dream as real. Most of the time you could see this age group of children, soon after they get up, they cry and come. But if you ask why do they cry, they won't be able to answer properly, because they would have undergone for some dream and they may think all those dreams are real. And this particular age group of children, you would have seen them treating all their lifeless objects, that is their toys, as living ones. They would be just talking to their toy. They would act as if they are the mother and the toy is the child. So this is what called as animism. The third stage is 7 to 11-year-old, which is concrete operational stage. At this particular stage, this intelligence is demonstrated through logical as well as systematic manipulation of symbols related to the concrete objects. So here this egocentric thought keeps diminishing. So they would share their toys, they would share all their things with their friends and their playmates, and operational thinking develops over here. As I have told you with regard to this chocolate example, the child would explore a possibility to the mother, saying that if that shop is closed, the mother can try with the other shop. So this sort of operational thinking develops. Actually, Piaget's conservation theory is there. There you could see in this picture, uh, A and B glasses are having the same colored water, same level. If the water from the glass of B is transferred to the glass of C, if you ask the showing this picture, if you ask the child of 7 to 11, I'm sorry, the child of 2 to 7-year-old child, the child would say that the longer glass has more water than the shorter glass. That is, C glass is having more water. But the same thing if you show to 7 to 11-year-old child, the child would say all water are the same. The glass is only different, because here what happens? The operational thinking happens in the child. The same example, the same thing if you give to the next stage, that is formal operational stage, to a 12-year and above child, if you give, the child would be able to see the emptiness of the glass. With regard to A glass, it is half filled. With regard to B glass, the child would say that it is empty, and C glass is 3/4 it is filled. So the child is exploring here the logical thinking, problem solving, as well as even the reasoning. So here the intelligence is demonstrated through the logical use of symbols which are related to the abstract concept. Here, creativity is also dominating over here. As I have told you in this stage, with regard to this chocolate example which I have told, the child will tell the mother that, give me the money, let me go and check. Let me give you another example to make it very clear with regard to this cognitive development. Let's just imagine that a child is playing with this glass utensil, either flower vase or a glass tumbler or anything like that. With regard to 0 to 2 year old child will not just mind whether if the glass is broken. But with regard to 7 to 11-year-old child, the child would cry for because the flower vase is broken or the glass utensil is broken. But with regard to 7 to 11-year-old child, here what happens, this child will blame the other child, or the child would tell the mother that the glass just went and broke automatically, it fell on its own, or somebody else. The child would blame that he or she, another person, pointing out another person, the child would say they only have broken this flower vase. So here what happens, this operational thinking is happening over here. But with regard to this 12 and above year old, there won't be any evidence of this broken flower vase over there. They just take everything and they'll just throw it in the dustbin, and there will not be any evidence at all. So here this creativity, logical thinking, problem solving as well as reasoning is predominant at this particular stage. So Piaget's stages of cognitive development, 4 stages we have learned: sensory motor stage, pre-operational stage, concrete operational stage, and formal operational stage. Let's just go for a recap. In sensory motor stage, the infant explores the world through direct sensory motor contact. Object permanence and separation of anxiety develop during this particular stage. In pre-operational stage, the child uses the symbol with regard to words or images to represent the object, but does not reason logically. The child also has the ability to pretend, and during this stage, the child is very egocentric. With regard to concrete operational stage, the child can think logically about the concrete objects and can thus add and subtract. The child can understand the conservation with regard to changing of the utensils, with regard to the pouring of water. And in formal operational stage, the adolescent can reason abstractly and think in a hypothetical terms. What are the educational implications of Piaget's theory? With regard to curriculum, educators must plan a developmentally appropriate curriculum that enhances the students' logical and conceptual growth. With regard to instructions, teachers are expected to change the instructional strategies according to the children's interest and the needs. Some key takeaway messages are: teachers and parents should address the children's need according to the level of cognitive development. Many activities should be planned to foster the cognitive development both at home as well as in school. Let me give you some points for you to reflect on. Analyze the reason behind Piaget's cognitive development theory according to your perspective. As a teacher, how will you improve the problem-solving abilities in your adolescent students? These are some of the books for your further reading. Thank you for listening, students. Wish you all good luck.